dogs, I guess, in terms of just the growth in learning and having a year of experience under their belts?
I think they've physically they've grown. Mentally, they're still puppies because they played what we called last year and they played it well and they understand what we're doing on defense. But this year they have to graduate mentally to understand what the offenses are trying to do to them and get a better grasp of the game that way.
Okay, next up we have Greg Auman.
Hey, Todd, hope you're doing well. Thanks for doing this.
No problem, Greg.
Todd, I just want to ask you about the safety position, first of all. You got a lot of guys back from last year, obviously added a playmaker in Antoine Winfield. I just want to ask you, at least going into camp, if there's any separation between strong and free. I know you guys use both kind of interchangeably sometimes. Just how you see the position going into camp.
I think they're both interchangeable. We do so much interchanging. The title free and strong is just for the label. But depending on who we play, you can see one guy at one and another guy at the other, depending on our game plan. So we see it equally the same as far as a positionless safety. So we make them learn both. And then during games, whoever's playing, we know what they do well. We'll make that adjustment when the games come up.
Okay, next up we have Ira Kaufman, followed by Jenna Lane.
Afternoon, Todd.
How you doing, Ira?
Todd, you faced Mr. Brady more times than you want to remember. And like most, you didn't fare particularly well, Todd, but looking back and now he's part of your team, what makes him so unique? What makes him so difficult to plan against? And how glad are you to have him on your side of the field?
Well, it's great to have a good player on your team, two, adding Gronk and plus a bunch of rookies. But some of the things that make him great is doing the same things every day and being consistent at it. And you don't get to be a great player unless you work at it every day, not when the cameras are rolling, but when the cameras are off. And, he takes care of his body. He understands the game. He will play the same way, whether it's the Super Bowl or whether it's preseason. He comes to win. And I think that's a great mental aspect added to our team. But defensively, we have to do what we've been doing regardless of who's the quarterback and who's on offense. We got to try to get the ball back and get them off the field.
Okay, next up we have Jenna Lane, followed by Mike Giardi of NFL Network.
Hi, Coach Bowles. Thanks so much for doing this.
No problem, Jenna.
To that effect of what Ira said, how does going against Tom Brady daily, how can that help? How can that impact your young guys on defense, particularly on the back end?
Well, we got to get better on our own, regardless of whether we're going against Brady, whether we're going against Gabbert, whether we're going against Griffin. It doesn't matter. We got to get better from a disguise standpoint, understanding the details of the defense. I think we can take leaps and bounds in that aspect. But playing against a guy that's going to come after you every day can only sharpen you.
Okay, next up is Mike Giardi from NFL Network.
Hey, Todd, I'm just curious about your sorry about that. I'm just curious about your expectation for Devin White and his growth after obviously a very impressive rookie season.
Well, for me, the biggest thing about Devin, obviously he got injured. For him to stay healthy, number one, this year going in, and to mentally get a better grasp, just like the other rookies, get a better grasp of the system going in and take command of the defense.
Okay, next up is Rick Stroud.
Hey, Coach. What do you think your guys are able to do, if anything, as a group independent of the coaches right now? I mean, I know obviously the offense is a little easier for them to have a ball and throw it around. Is there anything like that the defense can do?
It's a little harder for the defense. I mean, not having seen them, not knowing what they're doing other than working out. They can do some one-on-one. I would take it somewhere if they got a wide out or two in their area. And that's for the DBs, for the D linemen. It's hard for people. You can have a gym in your home, but it's hard to have bags as far as, hold on, Tice. My son just crashed the meeting. Sorry about that, guys. It's hard to have bags as far as running drills in your home and running that way. So really, from a defensive line linebacker standpoint, all you can do is work out and watch tape. Tice, turn that down.
Got a special guest for us today. We're going to have our next question come from Luke Easterling.
Sorry about that, guys.
Hey, we're all living that life, Coach. It's all good. Todd, when we talked to you towards the end of last season, you made it clear how important it was and how much you wanted to be able to keep some of those key guys in the front seven whose contracts were coming up, how to keep that defensive line together. You guys were obviously able to do that in the offseason. This offseason being so unique and the things you can't do, how important do you think it is for this unit to be able to build on the success they had down the stretch last year by keeping things together, both coaching and roster-wise, to be able to continue to build on that?
With the kind of year we're having right now, I think it's very important to have chemistry and continuity. Obviously, we got to continue to communicate and get back together on the field and not do everything by Zoom or virtually and those type of aspects. But to have everybody back from the same defense that ended last year is important from a communication and continuity standpoint.
Next up is Kevin Lewis.
Coach, thanks for doing this. What are your reactions, emotions as somebody who's been a head coach in the league to the NFL kind of tweaking or talking about changes to the Rooney Rule this offseason?
Well, they're talking about it, which is a great thing. I don't think we have the right answer. I think every coach will sit here and tell you they want to be hired on their own merit and off the things they've done, not because of the color of their skin. But the fact that they're talking about it is encouraging. I don't know how we're going to fix it, but it's being talked about and addressed, and I'm sure they'll get it right.
Next up is Steve Isbitz from Joe Bucks Fan.
Coach, Vita Vea played about 2/3 of the snaps last season. Is that sort of your target for him, or do you look for him to maybe play more this year and get more involved? And also on these Zoom meetings, as silly as it might sound, is there anybody who stands out as being really on the ball in the meetings and extra sharp and leading?
Well, Vita, depending on the game plan, he'll play a lot more this year. Obviously, he played a lot last year, too. Sometimes drive linger on and you want to give guys a break, but we don't have that play count right this early. And for me to say somebody stands out in a Zoom meeting, I would probably be lying to you right now to make up anything, so I won't even go there.
Okay, next up is Karen Loftus.
Am I unmuted? Okay. Hey, Coach. Sean Murphy-Bunting had said when we had a Zoom call with him that he wanted to see this defense get more takeaways. Is that something that you have tabbed as a priority for you guys, your entire defense as well?
I mean, it's a priority every year. The biggest thing you can do is give the ball back to the offense and give them extra possessions. So, it's one of the things we work on every week, and we'll continue to do that.
Okay, next up is Greg Auman.
Hey, Todd, before all this happened with Brady and Gronkowski, if you go back to even late February, Coach Arians had talked about his confidence in your side of the ball in terms of being maybe even the side of the ball he was more excited about. How much confidence do you have about that side of the ball being a reliable part of the team, being a defense that can close out wins this season?
Well, again, you start over every year. I know we ended up pretty good, and we played a few good games ending out the season, but every year is a new year. You can't rely on the past. But the fact that we got the same guys back and there's some continuity, and the fact that they're starting to get it mentally with each other as well as the opposition is encouraging. But again, we got to get everybody in and start that over again.
Okay, next up is Jenna Lane.
Hi, Coach. I'm guessing that was Tyson that came through over there.
That was Tyson.
How special has it been for you to be able, because I know you spend a lot of time in the office, how special has it been to be able to work from home? And also, are your boys sick of all the blitz packages that you're drawing up right now?
Well, it's great that I get to be around my boys a lot in football. That doesn't happen often, so we get to spend a lot of time together inside and at the playground and doing a lot of things. And I do not draw blitz packages up for them. Just simple fundamental work and getting them to understand the game since school's out, and the fact that they don't sit around and play PS4 all day. You got to get them out the house and get them moving around a little bit. So we go down the street and we get a couple drills in.
All right, next up is Mike Giardi.
Coach, I'm just curious about the implementation of the defense. You mentioned the Zooms and not being sure if you can say anyone stands out or not, but I'm just curious from your vantage point of how smoothly has this been going?
Well, it's been good just from a refresher standpoint. For us as coaches, we get together to do the minor details and the things we got to perfect from last year and things that we don't like and things that we do. And as far as getting it to the players, it's just fine tuning the details of the things that we ran. And if we add a few new wrinkles, making sure they understand it, it's really important for us to communicate and have them communicate it back to us so we understand going in. Whenever we go in, this may not be a normal season, so we got to be ready to go because everybody's in the same boat. So the communication and continuity verbally has got to be there day one.
Okay, next up we have Ira Kaufman.
Todd, I was going to ask Tyson how to play the 3 technique, but he's gone. So, Coach, Antoine Winfield, what jumped out at you about his play, and why do you think he's a good fit in what you're trying to do?
Well, he's a smart and he's a tough football player, and the ball finds him. That's rare for the ball to find safeties in college these days. He has great pedigree. I was actually at the bowl game when they played at the stadium, and he's all over the field. He can do multiple things like we have our safeties do. He can play nickel, he can play strong, he can play free. He can be up, he can be back, and he's multi-dimensional, so that can't do anything but help us.
Okay, next up we have Rick Stroud.
Hey, Coach, with your defensive backs, the way Jamel Dean played, and of course, Carlton Davis, where does Sean Murphy-Bunting, does he start inside as a nickel? Is he still outside? Or are you trying to get as many of those guys on the field at once as you can? Just what do you see his role next year?
Well, he played outside in base. He plays inside in nickel, and Dean comes in the outside, and that'll continue to be the same thing. But it's a lot of good competition out there, so we're going to let those guys play. And it's a healthy competition. It's better for the coaches.
Okay, next up is Justin Granite.
Hey, Coach. Devin White burst on the scene second half of the year last season, said he was feeling a lot more comfortable. Where is his ceiling at coming into this year, and what does he need to do to take that next step into the top tier of linebackers?
Well, like any first-year guy, you grow mentally, and it's a natural progression. It's not going to happen the first year. You get better as the season goes. But when the game slowed down for him, he started playing faster. Obviously, we got to pick that up again and make sure he has a great understanding of it and put him in position to make plays, and I think he'll make them.
Next up is Andrew Cassee.
Hey, Coach, Sean Murphy-Bunting, and I guess to a lesser extent, Devin White said that, the difference between the first and the second portion of the season last year was that, the first half, you guys had great defensive schemes, but they just weren't quite in position to properly execute those schemes. And then obviously that was corrected in the second portion. Do you fear that kind of some of that has been a little bit lost in this offseason without being able to get together and continue to actually in person execute those schemes?
No, the first half, we were still getting to know each other. We can execute better. Obviously, as coaches, we can call it better. And this offseason, the communication's got to be there. And, it's a different way of teaching, but it's a good challenge for coaches. And the better you know your players, the more you can take advantage of the situation. So we just got to do our due diligence as coaches to make sure we're not just talking to them, but teaching them and making sure they can talk back to us and making sure they have a clear understanding, going over the drills we need to do, the techniques we need to play, and the defenses we need to run as far as them communicating with each other.
All right, next up we have John Ledyard from Pewter Report.
Coach, just curious about the safeties in this defense. And obviously there are a lot of different names out there right now in your safety room, but it's kind of, in the past, I know you've been known for playing a lot of safeties and sometimes getting 3 of those guys on the field at once. And is it important to you that all these guys know every type of role for the safety position, the slot, playing D, playing in the box, all those kinds of things? In the past, some of them have had more specific roles, but is it important to you that all these guys kind of know every single role, no matter where they might be deployed on the defense?
You learn them all, and that's what we do as a defensive coaching staff. We make them learn them all, but come game day, depending on who's playing, we know their strengths and weaknesses. We'll put them where they need to be. I won't make somebody do something they can't do. We try to let elephants be elephants and giraffes be giraffes, as Coach Parcells used to say.
All right, there's time for just a couple more. The next one's going to be from Ed Encina.
Todd, how do you what is the key to translating some of these, pass breakups, the large number that you guys had last year, into interceptions? I mean, is it better anticipation, better learning of the system, nailing on the jugs machines? What makes those things kind of translate?
We do all that. The simple answer is we just got to catch the ball. We dropped some freebies last year that could turn the game one way or the other. We either got us back in the game or made it more of a blowout, but we just got to catch the ball, and we're working on that. We have drills for that every day, but come game time, you just got to make the play.
Okay, next up is Luke Easterling.
Coach, you touched on this a bit earlier, but we've seen throughout the league from coaches and executives that this offseason that we've had has really helped them see how much of that time spent at the office may or may not be necessary. Do you feel like moving forward, you will see any changes in the way teams and maybe even just individual coaches and players go about their off seasons and maybe even in season, and how much time they're able to spend away from the office but still getting work done?
I think you might. I can't see the future, but I think you might. Certain guys may look at things differently. I think coaches will. Certain coaches will, and then certain people will stay the same, And players, the guys that train are going to always train. The guys that come in at the last minute will continue to do that. But at the same time, everybody has a job to do. But, the hours, however you get your work done, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat. Some stay late, some get off early, and it works. I've seen it both ways.
All right, we got time for one more. We're going to go with Rick Stroud.
Hey, Todd, you obviously competed against Tom Brady a while there with the Jets. Specifically, what does he still do well, and how will he help your defense when he's on your team, as far as field position, whatever you think?
Well, I know he takes what you give him. He competes, and he makes sure he puts you on your heels every play. Obviously, it's 11 guys on offense. It won't be just Tom. He's coming into a fold. He's got some good players over there to work with. I'll be the first one to greet him once I see him, to show him how happy I am to have him here. But at the same time, he's got 11 guys to work with on the offense. And as much as we can get the ball back and get them to score points, the more points they score, the more we can get after it on defense. So we're just looking forward to winning however we can win, whether it's 6-3 or whether it's 50-49.
All right, that's all for today. Appreciate you taking the time, Coach.
Got it, guys.